I liked arguing about religion and everything like we all did back in those days. And I wanted to know, okay, how can I prove that our interpretation of the Bible as Baptists is, if not the best or not, is not completely accurate, certainly the best option for what we have on earth? That's what I wanted to prove. And at the end of the Baptist Heritage Conference, they said, well, Baptists are right because we follow the Bible. And I remember sitting there, it's like, everyone would say that. Literally every Christian denomination would tell you the same thing. And I was not satisfied with that. So I went into a personal study into the New Testament, the construction of the New Testament canon, and how it became, the canon we know today. And my findings were not comforting. They weren't comforting at all. It's like, oh, okay, these books were like first put together, not the 27 we know, but, the first New Testament canon was from a guy named Marcion, who was this bishop, and then other competing bishops. The 27 books we have now came about pretty early, but ultimately these books were decided by human beings that had no more apostolic authority than you or me. So what makes this like the definitive word of God compared to anything else? Then I found out that there is no such thing as actually the Bible. There's like Coptic Christians and Catholics and Eastern, they have slightly different Bibles. Okay, this is just, it's all out there. So now that Maranatha did train me for that though. And I'm shocked more people didn't go down that road because it was right there in front of us.
Yeah. I think that's the thing that I had to eventually get used to, the idea that bibliolatry was a real thing. Right, where we kind of worship the Bible above just about anything else. It kind of felt like fourth person of the Trinity. Nice. Every other religion, or every other version of religion, always has tradition, human experience, reason as methods to interpret reality, along with the scriptures. But for some reason, us Baptists, we're like, nope, it's just the Bible. Mm-hmm. We don't have tradition isn't a big deal for us. Reason's not a big deal for us. I think it's the Wesleyan quadrilateral, if you ever want to look it up, but it's like scriptures, experience, reason, and Christian tradition. And all of those things are great tools to help us interpret reality and community. That's kind of where we all come up in. But if it's just the Bible, it's a very much a we weren't very self-aware that we were bringing our own biases and our own experiences and our own ideas and our own modern thought onto our interpretation, but we use that as the default. That's the way it's always been, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That took me a long time to realize that.
Yeah, it's true. It's you're never really aware of your own biases, and it's great to have other people there to point it out, which made it so disappointing how uncommon I found that to be. For as much as we talked about all this stuff, because I remember just having a lot of epiphanies there on stuff I hadn't really considered, like Dr. Radford, for example. I took Old Testament geography. It was a class called Old Testament geography I took with him. Fun class, really great. We learned all about the maps and the areas, locations of the Middle East. And I remember being in church when I was a kid, and pastors would always make fun. You ever hear people say that the Israelites didn't cross the Red Sea; they crossed the Sea of Reeds, and they would always make fun of how absurd that was and everything. And Dr. Radford got up there and he said, "Actually, no, I think that's right. I think they did cross Sea of Reeds." I had never heard someone say that before. I was like, okay, you got my attention. What's going on here? Right. And so he said, yeah, so if you read the passage, it says that they crossed the Red Sea. But if you look at the context here, it says that I think there's 3 million Hebrew males. And so he says, so you roughly estimate there's going to be 3 million Hebrew females, a couple million children, and their equipment, their livestock. A lot of them are going to be old people or sick. And he said that if you look at the narrowest part of the Red Sea, there is no way at all you can get 8 million people and their equipment to cross that in 8 to 12 hours. It can't happen because they did it all in one night. He's like, it cannot happen. It is physically impossible to do it. And he's like, in the Red Sea, like the banks weren't wildly different thousands of years ago as they are today. It's pretty much the same thing. He's like, it's just not, that would be a bigger miracle than the sea actually parting. So he said, and so he said that a lot of interpretations say, well, actually, this is supposed to be sea, because the language is, weird sometimes. Like, it's actually supposed to be Sea of Reeds, which, it does like dry up sometimes, and it's a body of water that could be crossed in one night. So he's like, I just think that makes more sense. I had never heard anyone say that publicly, or at least give it any thought whatsoever. Yeah. And he also debunked this. I don't know if you ever heard these stories about how someone found the Ark of the Covenant under Golgotha, and they had blood on there that they tested, and it only had
sure.
Yeah, you've heard that.
13 chromosomes or something like that.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And so I heard that. I said, oh, okay, well, obviously, I can't believe scientists are denying this when you have blood with 13 chromosomes here. Although that wouldn't even, honestly, when I think about it, that wouldn't, because it could just be some other animal. But anyway, that has 13 chromosomes. But no, but it's like, then Dr. Radford's like, yeah, that's just nonsense. Some guy is going around making these claims and people are buying into it. And that class opened my mind so much. And I'm so appreciative. Now, Dr. Radford, to my knowledge, was a fundamentalist Christian. But like you said, like they took this seriously. They said, okay, we believe this, but we're not going to lie to you. And I did appreciate that.
Yeah. And I think there was a few there. I don't know what it's like today, right? I don't know if it's any better or worse today. I'm frankly so disconnected from it, but that's I do think they took the Bible seriously, taught us to think critically about it, and do research. But something just kind of fell short of, like, if you think critically, do research, then how are you not also right? Where's the disconnect? I don't get it.
I don't get it either. I had a conversation with Dr. Saxon. Now, this one wasn't like the fundamentalist stuff or whatever. This was just about like soteriology and everything. Oh, sure. And I remember asking the question everybody asks. It's like, hey, what about people who never hear the gospel? Like, what's up with that? And the answer I got was the answer I knew was coming, where it says, well, if you look at what Paul said, that the look at the trees argument, that everyone around knows that a God created this, so they're without excuse. And then I said, well, I mean, okay, I got that. Most societies do believe in a God. That seems to be pretty constant. But there's no way that they're going to guess that there's some triune deity who spoke reality into existence and sent his son into Bronze Age Palestine. I was like, they would never figure
Yahweh and Jesus Christ. Oh, look, an apple tree.
Right? Yeah, they would never figure that out. What a lot of people would say is, well, if they wanted it bad enough, God would send them someone. And the example I brought up was North and South America that didn't hear about Christianity until 500. You're telling me nobody sought out the true God, and millions of people and all that time. And so Dr. Of course, he was like, well, we just have to figure it out. I was like, I'm kind of disappointed in this because I know he's a smart guy. I know he's thought about this, and that it stumped him. And I was like, I wonder if he really, I don't know. Like, I haven't talked to Dr. Saxon in 20 years or whatever, but I had the same thought you had. And that's why I went through a bitter, angry atheist phase where I was just, because I had felt, I was hurt. I felt that these folks had told me this knowing that everything they said led to a dead end, and acted like that wasn't the case, that there was some knowledge. If you study hard enough, you'll find it. I did, more than a lot of people I knew. And it's like, oh, it's just more questions. Why did you say it? Why didn't you just like say, hey, this is what I believe, this is what I think, but I'm not going to say that, oh, you're going to go to hell if you don't think that the sun actually stopped in the sky when Joshua was fighting the enemies of Israel.
Yeah. Oh, you want to get on a fun topic? Talk about.
Go for it.
You said Joshua fighting the enemies of Israel, right? Like that whole Canaan conquest piece. Like there's a few things that really stand out as like aha moments in my life, and I think really trying to think through the conquest of Canaan stories, where supposedly the story is God tells the Israelites to kill everybody in Canaan, the land that they're supposed to possess, like men, women, children, animals, all of it. And they go in and they do that. At least that's kind of what the story says. Like they kill everything and everybody. So you're saying God condone kind of a genocide on a handful? That's a big question. Yeah. Until you kind of start doing the research and you're like, even later on in the Old Testament, in that same story, it brings up Ammonites again and all these other people who were there. So how did they get there if they killed them all? Like, so then you have to ask the question, well, maybe that's not the point of the story. Like maybe this is like a Word document of some sort of like propaganda to let the other nations around the area know that Israel is a bigger deal than they actually think they are. And then you do archaeological research and you realize that it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It's a story.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I honestly I've always taken the Bible seriously. I used to take it literally, to an extent, but ever since leaving fundamentalism, I have a much greater appreciation for the Bible, like a much, much greater appreciation. Wow. Things make so much more sense too. It makes so much more sense. Like when I'm reading about, like the Israelites, honestly, the Old Testament is a bit of a comedy in a lot of ways. It's hilarious if you just step back and look at it. Because I remember being a kid and reading about, you have the Israelites who are rescued from Egypt by the Lord, like the creator of everything, and they leave him for a rain god. I said, hold on, this, why? And they do it multiple times. Yeah. It's like, why would anyone do this? It's like, oh, okay, this is like a polytheistic culture that you didn't see it, like the monolateralist or monotheistic interpretation that we have. They had a completely different mindset. And and the propaganda thing, oh yeah, God said kill everybody, so we did, look how terrifying we are. Okay, this makes more sense. This actually makes more sense than an actual God saying, oh, you didn't kill all the animals, you're disobeying me. It's like, what? Why do you care if we kill the animals?
Yeah